It's so easy to just get a sewing machine and jump right into it, but having sewed for a few years now, here are 5 things that I wish I knew sooner. There are a million different factors that will ultimately affect your sewing experience. It could be the machine, it could be the fabric, it could be the tools, it could be your mindset. It could be all these little things, and there's just all these little triggers that could easily ruin your first impressions and make you hate or love it within the first few minutes. But here's a few tips that I think can help you avoid hitting that wall of frustration and hopefully lead you on the right path. These are just general pointers about sewing. It's not really tips on how to improve your sewing skills. It's more just like how to improve the experience of sewing in general. Tip number 1, save money, clone clothes. A cheap but effective way to start projects. We're talking about clothes in your closet that already fit your vibe. If they're in your closet, you probably like the style of them. And also if they're in your closet, they probably fit you. So these are 2 of the most important parts that I consider for patterns. And you already own them, so you don't have to buy new patterns. The best way to clone clothes to get the exact measurements is to take a proper seam ripper and take it all apart. But if you don't want to take your clothes apart, you can also just trace the panels onto paper or fabric and use those traced copies as your pattern. Tip number 2, try on as you sew on. Try on your clothes as you're making them. It doesn't apply to accessories, but it also could. If you're making a strap for a bag, try different strap lengths and try it on before committing to that size. I've had so many times when I'm just done with a project, I just want to fly by and get it done, but then you end up making mistakes and then you have to live with those errors. It's a million times better to get it done and right the first time than to finish the product and have something wrong with it. Because even if you're using a free digital sewing pattern from my website and you're a size large and it's a size large and you think you'll fit, you won't always fit. So try it on just in case, because everybody comes in different shapes and sizes. So the only way to guarantee that it's going to fit you in the final product is by trying it on as you go. Because one of the worst things is finishing a project and there being like a sleeve too short, torso's too tight, the neckline's too big or too small. Make those adjustments as you're doing them and don't wait till the end. Number 3, get creative when you're sourcing fabrics. There's a ton of different fabrics out there that you can use to sew with. You can search your house for unused, like hand-me-down stuff. You can also go to the thrift store and buy some fabric there. Sometimes they'll have curtains or blankets, throws. Those are good materials, very big materials that come very cheap. Especially if you're a beginner, just try using those fabrics first because they're cheap and you won't feel as bad if you make a mistake. And if you do decide to go to a fabric store and you're a beginner, ask where the clearance bin is. A lot of fabric stores have them and it's very cheap material as well, which is great to try when you're experimenting or learning how to sew for the first time. Number 4, know your limit. You have to know when you need to stop and move on. When you get frustrated, it's not an if, it's when, because everyone gets frustrated when they sew. There's gonna be a point where you have to decide, should I continue sewing or should I just stop? Just press pause, take a break, or just stop sewing that project in general. Don't finish it. Back in the day when I was sewing, I'm still sewing, but when I was sewing till like 3 a.m. at night and I was just super frustrated, I'm trying to finish this one stitch and then I end up doing another stitch and it snowballs, this frustration of creating this thing that I wasn't even super passionate about. Could have saved myself a lot of grief by just stopping. If you're really serious about that piece, eventually you'll pick it up, you'll make the time, you'll find time to make it. And if it doesn't come back into your mind, then it probably wasn't worth finishing in the first place. Number 5, get your reps in. You really don't know what you don't know until you try. To find out what you need to learn, you kind of just have to start sewing until you face those challenges. I'm self-taught. I barely used YouTube, but I just sewed day in and day out and I was very conscious about where I was making mistakes and how I could fix them, and writing notes on that. And that's how I learned to become a better sewer. Those are 5 things that I wish I knew when I first started. And if you're looking to take on new sewing projects and you want some free digital sewing patterns or easy to follow tutorials, check out my channel. And until next time, peace.